Are you a hardworking local business owner striving for success online? There is help. Welcome to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast, featuring candid conversations and inspiring stories of online success. Now, here's your host.
Yes, this is James Martell, and I am your host for the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. And today I'm joined by Tony Valentino, a local customer acquisition specialist and a partner here at SmarterLocal. And today we're going to be discussing how a client literally doubled their hourly rate by employing 3 simple SmarterLocal strategies. And it doesn't end there. Their telephone doesn't stop ringing. They had to open another office, and they still can't keep up. Now, before Tony joins us, just a reminder that if you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy for your business that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free 30-minute consultation to discuss how a Smarter Local marketing program can be custom-tailored to your specific needs and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no-obligation, 30-minute consultation. Now, again, Tony Valentino is a local customer acquisition specialist.
I'm pretty good, James.
Here
how are
at
you?
SmarterLocal. Tony, how you doing today? Doing very well, thank you. Now, I'm excited to talk to you about this. You kind of clued me in on what was going on with one of your clients, and you talked about literally how they doubled their hourly rate, the phone doesn't stop ringing, had to open another office, and they still can't keep up. I know, of course, listeners in many cases would love to have that problem, have too many people calling, so they have to slow things down by upping their rates. Let's talk about this. This is something that's obviously a hot button to everybody, is to increase business. And obviously, with the strategies that you put in place for your client, obviously did that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you're right. These particular clients as attorneys in South Florida area, they have a very high quality problem now where they say their phone rings too much. Can that be possible?
It can be, but I think the way to solve that is to keep the calls coming in, but double your hourly rate, which is what they did. So, give us a little bit of the backstory on this. What was their initial problem when you met up with them? How did you meet them? And then tell us what their problems and their real challenges were.
Absolutely. Well, they were referred to us at SmarterLocal, and just like any other brick and mortar business, there were 2 brothers, 2 attorneys that have a law practice in Hallandale Beach in South Florida. Very competitive area, especially if you specialize in immigration. And these brothers came to us saying that, they wanted more business, and that's it. We put some of our tools in place, and as I say, their problems developed in the sense that, business started to grow. It started to boom, in fact. They felt that they needed to open another office, which they did. Yeah. One brother moved out to Fort Myers, here on the other coast of Florida, just to address the business that was coming in from that area, from the west coast of Florida.
It's amazing that the internet can have that kind of effect on a local business if they can get things in order and working for them, firing on all cylinders, so to speak. What was the number one thing, or not the number one thing, what was maybe one of the first things that you decided after having an initial consultation with them that you could help them with?
Oh, easy. Yeah, it was easy. It was there, like a lot of things, it was the thing that most people see initially, and that's their website. They had, an old clunky website that one of the brothers had built himself online, using, whatever tools, free tools that are available there. The very typical story, James. But we came in and, that's probably the first thing that we did, just kind of change the image of their landing page. And then we introduced some ideas like SEO to get, we introduced some ideas to start ranking in the organic search results. Citations was another big thing. We found that these brothers had, tried to do a lot of it themselves, and the intention's in the right place, but they're not too sure. They know law. They don't really know internet, and we found it was a bit of a mess. Now I'm talking specifically about citations, which is another fancy way to say name, address, and phone number, and the different iterations that are nested all around on the internet. We basically clean things up. We clean things up. We introduced a blog idea. We introduced the idea of trying to get some organic traffic from Google. And as I say, we haven't looked back. In fact, we got some very, very impressive results.
So let's kind of pull this apart a little bit. So let's leave the website till the end. Let's talk about citations, and let me kind of throw out a definition for our listeners who may be new to that term and why citations are important. And you said a citation is simply a mention of your business's name, address, and phone number on another reputable website, typically like a Yellow Pages, Yelp, Angie's List, 411. You could go down the list. There's 40 or 50 of these what we call major internet directories and portals where businesses have their name, address, and phone number listed. And the problem is, in fact, let me toss the problem over to you. What do you normally find when you go out and look at a business's citations?
Oh, yeah, that's an easy one. Here's what I find. The biggest problem I seem that I have to handle are the directories, and I'm talking about directories specifically aimed at lawyers. There are directories specifically aimed at doctors. Directories specifically aimed at all kinds of fields. And if an owner of a business does not take the time or doesn't even know about claiming the business, in other words, going to that directory and basically manually entering the relevant information to his business, what these directories will do, they'll basically scrape that information. They'll take the best stab at populating their directories. It's what they're in business for, and it's not always to the client's best interest. And this is what I find, and the reason why it's so problematic, James, as I'm sure you're aware, is that what happens is that there are so many versions of business, what can I say, information, address, phone numbers, old phone numbers, email addresses, different generations, and this is all quite significant and relevant to the search results as far as Google in particular is concerned.
It's true. I know I was at a search engine conference in Vegas, and Matt Cutts, who's a senior search engineer for Google, in fact, employee number 10, and was in charge at the time of spam for Google, and he did a big talk, and he was talking about specifically these directories, and he said, and it was a bombshell, he says 70% of the information in these directories is wrong. Businesses move, they change their address, they spell things differently, they spell street, ST or STR, or they spell out the full word. Their business name is different in every directory, and he explained the reason it's important, critical, that your business's information is accurate is because Google looks at these major directories, like the Yellow Pages, like Better Business Bureau, like Yelp, as a source to help them determine the accuracy of your business information and the authenticity of your business information, that it's actually you, not your competitor, squatting on your name, so they can determine where you should be listed in the search results. And if they're out looking at all these directories and it's just a mumbo-jumbo mess, they have a real challenge. And if you're not ranking highly in the results, this can be a major contributing factor because they can't figure out who you are, where you're located, or even what your regular phone number is.
Oh, absolutely. I can only concur to all that. And another offshoot of that is that very important indicator on the map. If you have a brick and mortar business, one of the most important things to you is to let your customers know exactly where your business is located. And that Google map is vital. All this mishmash of information, as you put it, only confuses not only the name, address, and phone number, but I've seen instances of map indicators, that are, way off the chart.
Yeah. And where we have special tools here at SmarterLocal where we can run reports, and it actually pulls in all of your citations. And you mentioned lawyers, and they've got all the legal directories that in this case you were working with. But every industry, every business category has its own industry, and there's specialty directories that we got access to that are highly reputable that Google looks at. So it's important. And one of the first things we do is we run a citation evaluation where we pull all this data into one report, and we can see all of the errors. And honestly, of the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of reports that I've generated, I have never seen a clean one yet. Not even close. Most of them are an absolute mess, and it's just because, for one of the big reasons you said, these directories just scrape through software what they can find, and they try to compile the correct information about your business into their directory, and then somebody else has a different way of doing it, and it's just spelt differently, it's inaccurate, it's wrong, it's outdated, and it's a mess.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the time taken, for somebody to have to sit there manually, I know the old days when, that's basically what I did when I started doing this, and I realized how important citations were, and the handshaking that needs to go on, right around there and all across the internet. It would take me not hours, but days, and to go back and check that, a particular directory has actually updated their information on their side. It wasn't easy, and it's still not easy. So yeah, we've got a lot of tools in place these days that, streamline all that, put a check and control on all that, and it's better times.
Yeah, and you mentioned it too. You said the consumers also, of course, use these directories. And the other thing with these directories is they rank in Google. They are highly trafficked. Yellow Pages, as archaic as they are in the print directory world, they're still relevant online. And there's lots of very highly relevant directories that have traffic that can send you customers. But if your contact information is wrong and your business address is wrong and your business name is spelled inaccurately, it obviously causes problems for your customers or clients who are looking to reach out to you as well. So, we don't normally talk pricing on here, but typically I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. Because, and obviously prices change, so I guess if this is being listened to 5 years from now, it might be a little bit different, but probably not. But we charge $9.97 to actually go through and identify and clean up. And first of all, we run free reports up front, so there's no cost to running reports. We encourage anybody who's interested in how their citations look to reach out to us. Just reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode, and we'll be happy to do a citation evaluation for you for free. And if yours are clean and squeaky and they don't need any work, of course, then you can sleep at night. But if they're a mess, then for $9.97 we'll clean them all up for you. Make sure you have enough to compete and beat out your competitors as well. So that's citations. That's one of the three strategies, SmarterLocal strategies that you employed. Number two, what was number two?
We the SEO. We gleaned and gathered some information about the immigration field. We attracted Google love. We attracted results from the organic search results from Google, and we rank very highly. We stress the importance to the lawyers, to the attorneys, and whatever's relevant in the news. Donald Trump and his idea about the border and the walls. I mean, this was the best thing that could have happened for these attorneys, because it was a hotbed. It was a hotbed of information. And the number of hits and people searching for that information online. Well, they're right up in there. Their articles are being found. They write 600-word articles. We help them write that. Actually, if you do a Google search, here's something I challenge anybody. You do a Google search for immigration attorney, Hallandale Beach, Florida. You're going to find my client. I don't think I've ever seen them less than number 3 on page 1. And that's without paid advertising. That's without anything. And that, as anyone can tell you, is a really high-ranking keyword phrase. If you're an attorney, I'm sure you'd like to be on page 1 for that kind of a keyword phrase.
You bet. And you mentioned paid advertising. If you're actually paying for those clicks, it wouldn't surprise me at all to see a $50 or $100 bill for every click through to your website with Google AdWords, because it's pricey. When you get into attorney and many topics these days, per click can cost.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, I can mention green cut. We targeted a number of different keywords, and, we set them in the sites, and we did the work. We wrote some beautiful articles. We got some professional article writers, in our team, and crafted some beautiful articles, passed it by the attorneys, made sure it was kosher with them, published these, and they're out there working day in, day out. So that was another big thing. Besides the citations, the fact that we have some good, relevant, original information out online is just, it's money. It's the phone ringing off the hook.
I know another client, another SmarterLocal client over in Victoria, British Columbia, up in Canada, and they're a chiropractor, and I had a chance to interview Dr. KL Copeland for his, and we'll put a link to that episode in the show notes, where in his particular case, he sounds like he was very similar to the attorneys, where I asked him actually the question, how many customers are you or how many patients in your case are you currently receiving from the internet? He says, well, I think maybe one per month, and he wasn't quite sure. And one of the first things we did, and one of the first things we always do for our clients and potential clients, is we run what we call the top 10 most profitable keywords. And in that particular case, we want to know not only what keywords are being searched by people who have the intent of taking advantage of that service. So we come up with keywords like Victoria, BC chiropractor, or chiropractor, Victoria, BC. And you can imagine if somebody was to type in that phrase, they're probably looking for a chiropractor in Victoria, BC. So very important keywords with a high commercial intent, meaning the searcher's looking for that service now. And we identify the top 10. And you mentioned something interesting. You said number 3 position or number 1 position. And the other thing that we always point out is it's really important to know where you're ranking in the top 10, because if you happen to be ranking on page 1 and you're in the number 7th position, you're going to earn about 3.5%, or you're going to get about 3.5% of the available click-throughs to your website by being in the 7th position. So that's not bad, 3.5%. However, if you're number 1, you're going to get 36%, 10 times more traffic. And in Dr. Kale's case, I know what we did is we ran the report. We identified that there's 2,940 people per month in the Greater Victoria area searching for a chiropractor. So now we know, okay, we got almost 3,000 people here that we can target. And if we can get into the top 1, 2, and 3, we can get the vast majority of that traffic to his website. And if they're looking for a chiropractor, we probably got a pretty good likelihood of sending him customers. So in his particular case, he very quickly went from maybe 1 customer a month to 16, and he maintained that and has maintained that for over 2 years. So it's this. What always amazes me, you mentioned the word, Tony, Google Love, which I've never heard before. That's a great one. But that's what this is, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And Google Love, in a lot of instances, it relates to dollars in the bank. Since we gave each other permission to mention price, here's something that this is how price relates to this particular business. They went from, we installed, and we set up, and we still run Google Analytics on everything that we do, and with their website, and we went from 2 searches a day, which was usually attributed to the lawyers, to the attorneys, the 2 brothers going on there.
Checking out where am I ranking today.
Yeah, exactly. To on average 300 a day. It doesn't sound like a lot. But here's what it related to phone calls. They said that their phone went from virtually nothing, and no receptionist, by the way. They didn't need a receptionist at this stage, to 50. They said, on average, 50 phone calls per day. And here's what I asked them. I said, what does, I said, think about this. What does one client cost you? What would you normally make, on average, from one client per month? And their answer was about, $2,000 to $3,000, on consultation fees, etc. And I said, out of 50 phone calls a day, per day, in 1 month, on average, you don't need to tell me, but just think about how many new customers they get per month. And you mentioned that evaluation for $9.97. I think that's I think that's almost a giveaway, just for the power of what that does, what that can do for a business. It's Yeah, I think a lot of this, return on investment is a phrase a lot of people like to kick around. There's a lot of return on investment when it's set up right.
And it has longevity. I know with Dr. KL in Victoria, we're actually in the process, as we speak, of building him out a brand new website. Because initially the SEO we did was on a site that he put together himself years ago. And recently he got back in touch with us and he says, you know what, I need to redo my website. It's time to give it a modern, fresh look. He was having a look at a few of his competitors and he realized that he was not looking nearly as good as they were. So we're just in the process of finishing that now. And if listeners want to go take a peek at it, you can visit it and see it at vfchiro.com. That's letter V, letter F, and then Chiro, short for chiropractor, vfchiro.com. You can take a peek at it. Beautiful website, and basically the same idea. In his particular case, it changed his business, all of a sudden being able to be comfortable knowing that he was going to get new customers and new patients all the time without having to worry about it all the time. And in his particular case, we manage, of course, measure and manage his monthly SEO. That's one thing you got to stay on top of this. So you talked about citations, you talked about SEO and some Google love. Number 3 was building the website. So let's talk to that.
Yeah, sure. Well, I mentioned earlier that one of the brothers was a weekend warrior on the computer, and he's bless his heart, his intentions were in the right place, but it didn't quite come together. He had one of these old clunky websites, pages everywhere, images that just didn't match and didn't resize, and not an attractive place to find, not an attractive introduction to their law firm. So yeah, that was another important one of the 3 that we came in and helped. We changed their image, basically, their online image, their presentation, took some professional photographs. Really made it vibrant and a place that attractive. When you first arrive, it makes you feel like, yeah, these are the kind of people you want to do business with.
SmarterLocal we offer is a local market evaluation. And one of the things that we look at with websites, and I know you took care of this, is making sure that they are mobile friendly. And today, and in this era, actually, as of November 2016, for the first time in history, and probably never to look back, is websites were accessed more on mobile devices than they were on PCs and laptops. And that's a pretty interesting thing for a couple of reasons. With a couple of stats out there, 91% of business websites are still not optimized for mobile, yet Google said statistically 61% of people who visit a website that offers a poor mobile experience leaves and goes on to the next website, their competitor. So if you want to make sure you're not losing customers to your competitor because your website isn't mobile friendly, it's one of the things we also include in our digital marketing evaluation is a mobile testing report where we literally visit your website on a variety of the top mobile devices, and we provide you with screenshots with exactly how your site is presented to potential customers when they arrive on your website. So now, Tony, I can see we are out of time. I want to take a moment and just thank you for joining us today. It's been great to have you on board. I really appreciate you taking the time to share the story of the attorney and the successes that you've had with him. Muchly appreciated.
My pleasure. Thanks, James.
Now, if what we talked about here makes sense to you, and you'd like to take us up on our free digital marketing evaluation, which again includes your top 10 most profitable keywords, a comprehensive list of your current citations, and a mobile design testing report, including full color screenshots of your website across the top Google Android and Apple mobile devices, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no obligation, 30-minute consultation and discovery session. The bottom line, we would love to help bring you more clients and customers for your business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no obligation, 30-minute consultation and discovery session. And finally, if you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did, and you know a friend or an associate who would benefit from what we shared here today, please do pass this episode on to them. I'm sure they'll thank you for doing so. Tony, thanks again, and to our listeners, thanks for listening to another edition of the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Smarter Local Marketing Podcast. If you would love to finally have in place a rock-solid internet marketing strategy that provides you with an excellent ongoing return on investment, then go ahead and reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange a free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation to discuss how a smarter local marketing program can be tailored to your specific needs and business. Again, simply reply to the email in which you received this podcast episode to arrange your free, no-obligation 30-minute consultation.